This is the Impressions Xchange podcast.
Impressions Xchange podcast,
where all topics impacting the graphic imaging and printing industry are addressed via in-depth news coverage, analysis, and timely interviews.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Impressions Xchange podcast. I'm Ashley Roberts, Managing Editor of the Printing and Packaging Group at NAPCO Media. Today, I have some very special guests on the show. I will be speaking with Lisa Cross, Principal Analyst for NAPCO Research, about the current state of the challenges affecting the printing industry, as well as what we can expect for 2023. Lisa helps to set the stage for the second half of our show, in which Senior Editor Dan Marx takes some time to speak with Linda Bishop, President of Thought Transformation, and Pete Douglas, Senior Vice President of Sales and Marketing at Lake County Press. Dan speaks with Linda and Pete about some of the challenges that Lisa and I touch on and explore how printing companies and their sales teams can respond. So Lisa, thank you so much for joining me on the podcast today.
Oh, great, Ashley. I'm really excited to be here and really happy to share some data, what we're seeing on NAPCO Research in terms of trends. So
Yeah.
Thank you.
Of course. Yeah, I'm so happy to have you here. So, as you know, our senior editor, Dan Marx, he had the chance to speak with Linda and Pete, and I know that you had a chance to listen to that interview as well. So I think a really good place to start would be, from the NAPCO Research side. Can you help us kind of set the stage by quantifying the current state of the challenges of the printing industry? So in terms of, selling more efficiently, supply chain issues, which we've talked about, ad nauseum, and growth opportunities that you've been seeing?
Sure, Ashley. That's a tough question though, because sometimes it's like, well, where do you start?
Right.
Because we work in such a diverse industry, and there are a lot of challenges, but at the same time, there are a lot of opportunities. So sometimes it's like a tale of two industries in a way. Pardon the reference to a tale of two cities, but there are a lot of challenges. We do a lot of research at NAPCO Research. We send out a lot of surveys that go to print companies that serve various segments, to buyers and communication influencers that might buy that particular print application. So we survey commercial printers, commercial print buyers, label and packaging printers, label and packaging buyers, and it can go on and on, wide format. And it's interesting that a lot of these trends that we see go across all segments of the industry. But some of the big things that we're seeing, I guess I'll start with something you said, ad nauseum, on supply chain. So I'm not going to talk about supply chain other than to say that it is a challenge. And what we see in our research is that people are elevating that activity to a mission critical function. Whereas before, not many people thought about supply chain. They're thinking about it a lot today, and they're elevating it to the same level as sales and finance and operations. But some of the things that we're really seeing people pursue, especially now as organizations are really looking to be more profitable, and trend that we are seeing is that while a lot of print providers are saying their sales are up, their profitability is down. So some of the things we're seeing people do in response to that, because of what's happening in the overall economic picture today, we're seeing more of a focus on increasing efficiency and productivity. So we're seeing people really looking, at their workflows and the equipment that they have, and targeting investments to improve productivity, enhance efficiency, and even to change some of the products that they might be offering customers to expand into new markets. And one data point I can share with you on efficiency is that we did a survey where we had asked commercial printers and implants, if there are any implants listening today, what their level of agreement was with the statement, automation is the single most important element keeping a print provider operating in the black today. And about 2/3 of both segments said that was the single most important element keeping their operation in the black. It was 65% for implants and 62% for commercial printers on that one. So productivity is a big one.
So was that surprising to you to see that, or was that something that you were expecting, that people would be, thinking that automation is that critical?
Well, I thought anecdotally it would be critical because when you look at the history of workflows in the industry and how because we also track how automated is your workflow. Is it highly automated, somewhat automated, manual, mostly manual, and usually we find that it's like in the middle, that there's a lot of room for that to go. So the importance of it, yeah, but I think what really caught me on this question was that we asked, is it the single most important element? So
Right.
so it kind of elevated that importance, that that automation is so important today, and productivity is so important. I mean, it's always been important in manufacturing, but today even more so, as you see the industry transition from historical conventional printing methods more to digital, and we're only seeing in our data that transition accelerate, that movement to digital output increasing. I don't really have a number on that. It's just that I know that I mean, when we look at a question like that, we look at several data points that we have when we ask a survey that tell us, like, that move to digital, that move to digital workflows, is just continuing, like, to for so many reasons, right? To minimize touches and minimize errors, reduce costs, have better insight into what's happening in your workflow and your operation. So so many reasons, and those translate to benefits to customers, because customers want to know those things. We often find in our surveys, we'll ask a print buyer, or whatever you want to call them today, a print buyer, a communication influencer, what are the types of things that you want to learn about, from your print provider? What do you want them to educate you on? Because everybody wants to provide content to their customers and educate their customers. And usually what buyers tell us is, they do want to learn more about, how to prepare a file for a job, or more about special effects to make their print product, their print communication stand out. Or maybe they want to know about digital printing, but they're looking for their print provider to educate them, on these things. And if you're a print provider, I'd jump on that bandwagon, because if you're educating someone on how to better, submit a job file, well, that's saving you cost and time and money, and improving your efficiency.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that is really important, and efficiency and productivity today. And I think print providers know that, and I think they're trying to customers know it too. And I think if you're a savvy print provider, you'll kind of translate that into a better way to serve your customer.
And so the print buyers, they want to know how to have their process be more efficient. So like, as you said, preparing files and everything. Are they also wanting to know and you mentioned digital print. So do they want to know about the actual print process, how they're from soup to nuts, how things are being produced?
I think there is, I'm not sure soup to nuts would be the word that I would use, but I do think they want to be educated, and they do want to know, because we asked recently in a survey if the print buyers, if they specified the printing process and or the brand of equipment used to print a particular job. And we were surprised by how many respondents told us that they were specifying the process, that they did have a say in that, and they did care about the equipment. And what that kind of told us was that, well, if you're a print provider, maybe you should educate your customers or prospects on what processes you have, because I know there was a trend in the industry, you don't need to tell people what processes you print, or don't put an equipment list on your website, that's taboo. And I don't think that should be the case. I think people want to know what your capabilities are.
Right.
I think the issue is that that's not the only way you want to market your company. It's
Mm-hmm.
not that you shouldn't share that information, but you shouldn't think that the equipment list on your website is marketing. It's not. But it is a critical piece of information that I always thought people should share, and that our data validates that buyers of print, would like to know that. So maybe it's a good idea to include that.
Interesting. So it sounds like some level of transparency and education is definitely, important.
Yeah, and now that I actually remembered what the number was. Sometimes, you have a lot of numbers circulating in your head when you're an analyst. You want to get the right one, but in a survey that we recently did, 86% of our print buyers said that they specify the print processes and or brands of printing devices used to produce their work. So that's a pretty high number.
Yeah.
And I got to tell you, Ashley, every time I share that number, because we've seen it in other research studies that we've done throughout the years, that's just the most recent one. People will question us on that, like, are you sure? Are you? And like, yeah, that's what they're saying. Like, so do something about it. I'm not, we're not making up the data. People are taking surveys. We're validating who takes the survey, making sure that, we go through all of our data line by line to make sure that, the responses make sense before we tabulate them and get these numbers. So yeah, I just want to share a little bit more on some of our survey research on what print buyers tell us, because Linda Bishop talked about selling, and I think that if you're going to sell and market you need to know some of the data that we've uncovered here. I think it would be useful. One of the questions we did ask is, what are the reasons that you select a print provider? That's always good to know. And we asked, what were your top three? So, no surprise, what were the top three? Quality and price, well, top two. The third one was quite interesting. That was creativity. And then the ones that were also important were they, select their provider based on how innovative they are, the excellent customer experience that they get, the services that they offer, because they're looking for broad service offerings, and the technical capabilities of that provider. So I think knowing those attributes are important to customers and prospects, or can help in targeting sales messages and marketing efforts, around those attributes. And another thing that I'm always surprised to see when we survey print buyers is that they prefer to work with providers that are G7 certified. That they're and it's usually like a recent survey we did, 2/3 of our buyer respondents wanted to work with providers that are G7 certified. And I think we even might have an update of that number that I can't think of off the top of my head. But that's always coming up a lot, that buyers today really care about, the delivery of consistent color, across applications, across platforms. So it's important to promote those efforts. And one of the reasons color might even be more important than ever is because when you think of how we communicate today, how it's not just print, right? It's print and an email and a website and mobile. So, color is in so many different formats. And people want their colors, to be consistent, not only side by side, but across platforms.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I've definitely our subject matter experts in color consistency. I've definitely heard that before. So that makes sense to me that then they would be searching for printers who are able to provide color consistency and ensure that. And of course, brands, that's huge. So definitely a very, very cool point. And you mentioned the creativity aspect, which I think is pretty interesting. I mean, I would think, that people would want to work with printers who are going to be a partner in that process. But it's interesting that is, you said it was like number 3, 4 of the most, of most important things. I think that's very interesting.
Yeah, I mean, people really are looking for creativity in their printer today, because there's print's gone through an evolution. There's so many things you can do with print today that you couldn't do in years past, with personalization and special effects and format sizes. And types of things you can produce, and even organizations who might not have been able to use print in the past because of quantity restrictions and costs can use it now. So there's a lot of a lot, a lot of people wanting to turn to print. And I think that creativity is important because there's so many more things that people can do that they need help in doing, and they need education in doing it. Like maybe you want to add like some type of coding, to emboss, um enhance your image so that this thing comes through the mail, it stands out. People need to know it about its existence, and know how to
Right.
use it, and know the best practices, and know how to design for it. So they're really looking um for their print provider to be that partner, and help in that creative process.
Right. And I think, one of our brands is Brand United, and we talk to the brands, marketers, agencies, print buyers, that side of the segment. And one of the things that we try to write about is kind of that bridge of, here are what the printers can do, but getting that kind of awareness factor, that information over to the brands and the print buyers and the marketers, like, hey, these are all the incredible things that you can do with print. So, and one of the things we highlighted recently was something that went out for one of our Printing United Expo direct mail piece. It had a scent component. So and that's a UV coating that was added to the direct mail piece. Well, a lot of brands might not even be, or print buyers might not be thinking about scent or scent marketing, and how powerful that can be. But that's something that printers can offer to, their
Wow.
customers. So it's definitely, I think that's what you said is just,
Yeah.
spot on.
I have to know though, what was the scent? What was
It
the
was-
smell? What's trade show smell?
Yeah, you know what? I was wondering the same thing until I saw it. It was actually sunscreen.
Oh.
So it was, and I can share with you the image. It was a sun and like a Las Vegas scene, and it smelled of sunscreen. It was really cool.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there are a lot of buyers out there that, think that it's so complicated today to add scent to
Right.
printing. Like they'll remember, like, way back in the day, where, people would have a scented piece, and think it might be too expensive, or not for them. Um so
Exactly.
that's great. I'm glad you shared that example.
Yeah.
I hope I'm on that mailing list.
Yes. If not, I'll get you one. I have a ton of them. So great. So I think that was really, really helpful in setting the stage. Is there anything else you wanted to share on that note?
Just one more thing, since
Yeah.
we're talking about, reaching your buyers and marketing to them. One other question that we ask a lot is, how do you find your print providers? How do you, if you're, how do you find them? Like if you have a job coming up and you need a new print provider, I mean, beyond, like, a lot of people have long-term relationships with their providers, but if they're looking for a new one, or looking to try something new, what are the things you do? So, some of the ways that they do it is they use online channels, right? They might go to your website, they might look at your social media page or your LinkedIn page. Um, they might go to your website and see who your customers are, and see if there's case studies there, or um, that's one way, online outreach. So that's important. And a lot of times we tell people, like, if somebody comes to your website, what do they see? What's there? Right?
Mhm.
Like, do you look like a thought leader? Are you really clearly, like, representing what your company does? Or does, somebody come to your website and they don't have a clue what your company is about?
Right.
In-person events is another way that they find their printers. And I know, we can talk about that now, because, in-person events have come back,
Yeah.
because I even know when we couldn't meet in person, there are a lot of print providers that were having virtual events. To kind of wasn't the same, but they were doing something to engage their customers. But in-person events is one way that they find providers. And printed marketing materials that are sent to them. How many print providers, send direct mail to their customers, showing what we can do.
Mhm.
So some of the most common ways that buyers tell us that they find their print providers are, from, online channels, in-person events, and printed materials themselves. Because, and when you think about it, maybe online's that initial way they find someone. You you do a little diligence, a little research, you see what the company's about. Then, in person, you go to an event and you actually get to meet and see like who you might be doing business with. And then printed material, the proof is in the pudding, right? The actual sample is showing you, what that company is capable of doing. I just think print samples myself are just so powerful. And especially if you show people what they can do, especially if you have, invested in a new press that can do enhanced printing that like neon yellows or pinks or some type of coating, something that's beyond, CMYK, or even with variable data printing or personalization, really demonstrating that in a print sample, because, our experience is that a lot of times people just can't conceptualize it. You can
Right.
tell them what it's going to be, but if you show them, it's just a lot more powerful. So our recommendation with a data point like this, and like I said, we ask this question quite a bit, how do you find your print providers, is that, you really need to use multiple touch points to reach customers and prospects today. It can't just be about one. You really have to have a multi-pronged strategy.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's a great point, especially appealing to a more, creative mind who needs that visual kind of show of what's possible to spark the creativity. I think that's
And one more very important thing I forgot in that discussion
Mhm.
was the importance of referrals. Asking your current customers to give you referrals,
right.
because a lot of times people are afraid, to make that request, to ask for some type of referral. And maybe another referral you need to ask for is even within an organization. If you're doing printing for one department in an organization, ask for a referral to another.
Yeah.
But that's another way that people buyers are finding or buyers are finding print providers. Yes. So
Yeah. Great. Thank you. So I wanted to ask you one other question. And it was something that Linda brought up when she was speaking with Dan, and it was regarding the challenges affecting printing companies and their sales teams, as we've mentioned. So she said, one of the questions is, will 2023 be a repeat of 2022? So do you have any insights there? Do you have any upcoming research, or, what are your thoughts there?
Oh, the crystal ball question.
Yes.
Boy, it'd be great if we had one. We had perfect visibility into the future. At the moment, we're working on that. What do we think is going to happen in 2023 based on our survey research? So we have a survey that will be in the field shortly. Every year we do a survey of commercial printers and commercial print buyers. It's an annual service we do. It's our annual commercial print trends and strategy service. So our survey is going to be in the field in October, and we should start releasing information, end of year, beginning of next year, to really, have an idea as to what's going to happen, or what print providers and buyers are telling us they expect is going to happen. Because, I could give you my opinion, and so could a lot of other consultants, but, really to form that opinion, we need research and we need survey data. And when we go out to our commercial, our readers of Printing Impressions and In-Plant Impressions, and some of the Brand United readers, we ask them about trends and what they expect in the year ahead, like what happened in the last year and what do you think is going to happen in the next 12 months. And we usually get back some really great data in terms of, application spending, growth. If you're a print provider, did your business grow? Do you expect the growth to continue? What type of applications are in high demand? And other things, relative to print and production and efficiency.
Great. Thank you so much, Lisa. I really appreciate you taking the time to speak with me today.
Thanks, Ashley.
Of course. And come back on the show.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
Of course. Stick around, because coming up next, Dan will be speaking with Linda and Pete. Want to join the entire printing industry in Vegas? Printing United Expo, taking place October 19th to the 21st, will span 2 halls of the Las Vegas Convention Center, encompassing 1 million gross square feet of booth space. all focused on print and supporting the industry. If you're looking for new equipment, networking, or education, Printing United Expo has you covered. Grab your team and explore aisles and aisles stacked with printing equipment, solutions, trends, and exhibitors ready to show you the latest and greatest in the industry. Save the date and head to printingunited.com to register today.
These are interesting times for the U.S. economy and for printing businesses. Despite the challenges we all know so well, supply chain disruptions, paper shortages, a tight labor market, a looming recession, and the reverberations of a global pandemic, business for many is quite robust. Salespeople are busy. In many cases, says Linda Bishop, president of Thought Transformation, they are so busy servicing accounts that they lack the time needed to sell. So we're going to learn more about that today. Welcome, Linda.
Glad to be here, Dan.
Great to have you. Linda, can you tell us a little bit about this phenomenon and what it looks like today for many sales teams?
So I am lucky to talk to salespeople across the country. And one of the things that is a recurring theme this year seems to be the challenges in just moving transactional business along. So sales teams are very focused on overcoming those challenges, but less so on the fact that 2023 is right around the corner and that things could change very rapidly. And maybe you should be doing more to prospect now to find new business for the year ahead.
Okay. Well, to give a sort of color commentary on this discussion today, we also have joining us on this episode Pete Douglas. He is Senior Vice President and Director of Sales and Marketing at Lake County Press. So welcome, Pete.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Pete, just so we can understand a little better about Lake County Press, obviously, how busy are you right now? And can you tell us a little bit about the company, maybe the applications and market areas you serve?
Sure. LCP has been in business for over 50 years. We're located in the Midwest. We're servicing clients all across the country. We have several different distinct market segments that we service, most of them on the higher end brands. And we have about 176 full-time employees operating 3 shifts. We have diverse offerings to help with the value-added sale for our salespeople. And we employ 20 salespeople, including myself, handling a book of business.
Okay. Linda, from some discussions I've had with some of the PSPs out there, things are going well, but there's a certain level of uncertainty. So can you describe some of the factors that are causing the uncertainty and how that may be affecting sales efforts today? And as you're going through this, like, is the concern that the current good times may be temporary, or is it something else?
Yeah, I think the fact that there have been so many supply chain challenges, Dan, have really made clients skittish about being open to a prospecting conversation or anything like that. However, those same clients are also frustrated. You know, in the printing industry, I mean, one salesperson said he felt like every week there was a new price increase on paper. I don't think that's 100% true, but it gives you sort of the feeling of what many salespeople are experiencing. So clients at the beginning, they've also had the same supply chain client challenges for many of them. You know, they've either seen their wages go up or the products that they produce go up. So they were willing to go along with their print suppliers as prices went up. Mm-hmm. But there is, I think, as the year ends and budgets sort of restart for 2023, many people are saying, you know, maybe I shouldn't do this at all next year. Or one print provider told me that a client who used to do $150,000 worth of printing has shrunk it down to just doing 50. Of course, the paper for that $50,000 worth of printing is less, but they reduced page counts, they reduced quantities, they did a lot to reduce the overall size of the account. So for salespeople, even though you're really busy now, the real question you have to ask yourself is, will 2023 repeat what is happening now for 2022?
Okay. And Pete, just to kind of expand on this, obviously, I'm sure Lake County Press has been dealing with paper supply challenges. It's harder to get. And do you find that you're having customers, like Linda said, doing shorter page counts, doing shorter runs, but it still requires the same amount of service from your sales team?
Yes, we've had, paper's been an ongoing problem for 18 months and is projected out through the end of 23, certainly through the summer of 23, talking with several of the mills that we've had discussions with. It certainly seems to be an ongoing issue. Now with the sales force, it's the old adage, they're too busy to prospect, and when they're slow, they're too busy to prospect. It's an ongoing issue, right? So
Right.
right now we have a situation where, we're busy. The presses are booked. We're out 60 days and they go out and they sell a job. We take a couple weeks to get the paper, and then we have to get on the press and get the schedule done. And salespeople are reluctant to have to give bad news to a client when they have to tell them, one, the project is delayed from the timeline because of the paper delays, and two, perhaps there's a price increase as a result of the material cost with paper. Now I have to comment on Linda's comment about the price increase from the paper mills. It is something that's been occurring every month for sure, and it's anywhere from 7 to 8% on a monthly basis. Mills sending out emails saying their product material cost is going up 8%. And we even have a situation now where we quote a job and it may be 10, 15 days from the time that we quote it till we actually receive the order.
Yeah.
And we place the order with the merchant and the price has gone up in that time period. So we've had to put a disclaimer on our estimates to inform the clients that the job is not confirmed pricing until the paper is ordered. So it's another dynamic within the whole sales process that people have to manage their clients, manage the expectations, and certainly try to help kind of shore up that relationship to let the client know they're working on their behalf. We're trying to secure the paper. And it's just another dynamic within our whole industry that has really created some hardships with relationship with customers. Now, I'll agree with Linda that there have been multiple jobs that we've been either reduced and or have gone digital versus being offset. And to that end, I mean, that may open up another area within our business that will help with the variable data content. So they're going to a smaller market as opposed to running 100,000 brochures. Maybe they're only running 5,000, and maybe incorporating some digital content into that may help, pare down their customer base and really have more of a targeted approach. But
Pete, does your Lake County Press's sort of model support that idea of doing shorter run, higher value printing?
We do. We have a digital department. We have an integrated cross media team as well that can help work with customers to look at what they're trying to achieve, and then look at how we can utilize their artwork and their messaging to extract a certain response rate for a certain mailing.
Okay, Linda, let's talk about the concept of business reduction if a recession does come our way. Obviously, the stock market is interesting. Inflation is puzzling. There's a lot of question marks floating out there. So what do you see as possibilities there, and what should printing businesses be looking at?
I think you have to dig into your current customer base, Dan, and really take a hard look at who is buying from you. For example, if you have healthcare as a client, I don't know that I think that's going to go through a recession. If you were doing automotive, I don't know that I think, there's tons of pent up demand for automotive, so would that be it? If you're printing for somebody who's building, that peak may have passed and maybe you need to rethink. I think it's all about really looking hard at who, if you're a sales professional who wants to grow, taking that hard, deep dive look into your own account base and possibly even thinking about, going off with, Pete as an example, who's a strategic thinker, finding some other strategic thinkers within your company and having your own little mini retreat to talk about opportunities. Because I think for most printers, at least the ones that I know that I feel like are coming through everything and doing fine now, they have more to sell than just printing, so what opportunities could you take advantage of if you really dug down and thought about what's available to sell?
So really looking also at value-added services, not just as an add-on, but as truly additional services that can be offered. Pete, what is your reaction to that, and how has Lake County Press addressed that?
Yes, I would agree. I mean, last year, 2021, we had a total revenue of 46 million. 2022, we're projected revenue of just under 50 million. The growth is really, it's not in the offset arena. Less than 50% of our revenue is from offset printing. The rest is made up in combination of digital, cut-sheet digital, grand format, web to print sites, mailing, fulfillment, storage, and pick and pack. And so what we've done as a company with the management team, we sat down, looked at our account base, looked at our top 25 accounts. We dissected what we're doing for those top 25 accounts, met with the sales reps. If we're only doing digital for them right now, have we talked to them about doing offset? Are we only doing offset for them now? Have we talked to them about doing grand format? And so these are the things that we're having discussions with our customers about, is looking at what other product specialists that we have within our organization that can help shore up the salesmen's. Really, it's their assurance and confidence when they go in and talk to a customer about the product that we're selling them. So salespeople are reluctant to sell a technology that they don't understand. And so to that end, what we've done is we've hired product specialists in grand format. We've hired product specialists within web development. We've hired product specialists within fulfillment and mailing. And these are people that are available to go out with the salesman and make a joint call with them to try to expand our offerings within the organization we're already doing work with. And now with this pandemic, it's very difficult to sell. It's unprecedented. I've been doing this 34 years, and I have never had a situation where you can go to hold of a customer, one, that they're not in their office, two, you're not even sure if they're still employed, three, what are they buying, because you haven't talked to them or seen them or met them in 2 years. So it's difficult. The best way is to get into someone you already have a relationship and have a rapport built with, and have them refer you into a different area within their organization that may be purchasing something that you can supply them. So that is definitely the only way right now that's been successful in really building our business, is going to the clients we're already working with.
Okay, I think one thing I'm hearing there, and I'd love to hear your reaction to this as well, Linda, but the idea of having multiple funnels into your business, I think, for a company that comes from an offset background, that's sort of the mindset, and the idea that everybody comes through this offset funnel, and maybe you can sell them some other stuff, but to really view each one as an entry door into the business. Linda, thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, Dan, like, even why I know Pete to tell you that, because I think this is sort of reflects, massive changes in the industry, is many, many years ago, I spoke for a printing industry conference, and I met the person who at that point was in charge of sales. And he told me, hey, if you're ever in Chicago, come by and see our facility. And so my family's from Chicago. I went and saw their facility. They, at that point in time, and I date myself by saying this, but I know it had to be close to 15, years ago now, they were already in the warehouse business. And it just struck me at that point in time, I had never been to a printer who was running an independent warehouse.
Yeah.
But I think the way of the future is, again, people have communications. They are now very stretched resources, in their marketing department. They're experiencing the same challenges everybody else can do. What is it that they want to accomplish? What are their goals? Are they looking for a way to support sales enablement for a hybrid workforce? Do they wish they had a better warehouse solution? Are they doing mailing but not sure that they really are getting their bang for their buck? Do they just want to produce, have a greener print initiative and produce fewer brochures and less waste? There's really things like this are more of the problems that sales needs to be prepared to discuss than do you have a printing project I can quote on?
Right.
Dan, I wanted to add this because something that struck me. This is my tip to salespeople. Nobody, me included, ever asks for enough referrals. There's people that love you right now that know somebody else who would be a perfect fit for you. And to go to what Pete said, in the hybrid work world, sometimes it's really hard to hunt somebody down in their office. You can't even do a drive-by sampling like I used to do when I was sold. So asking for more referrals from people that already love you is really a smart strategy for all sales professionals.
Okay. So Pete, in Linda's answer there were a lot of different suggestions. And what do you hear that resonates there? And I guess one of the questions I had was with your challenges in selling. You said selling has gotten harder because it's just harder to connect with people. What are you doing to try to fill that gap? And are you having any success in really getting through and building relationships or rekindling them?
Yeah, I think for us, our start in the early 90s and working with the graphic designers and managing some of the high-end design firms and agencies around the country, that obviously that pendulum has swung back to the corporations managing that print spend through the purchasing department. Having those relationships within the marketing departments is certainly important. And then to that end, working with them to try to create a solution to help manage their brand. And that's really what we do here at LCP, is manage our clients' brands. And that management of the brand is done through basically different output devices. So the output device can be an offset press, a digital press, a website, ASI items, wearables, pens, mugs, things along that line, fulfillment. And for us, it's been successful in going to the clients that we're working with currently, talking to them about grand format, for instance. Let's talk about environmental signage. We're not doing that for you right now. Let's show you some case studies of other clients that we work with that are in your same industry that may resonate with you after looking at our samples. So having these Zoom meetings and presentations have been helpful to be able to spread the word within our current existing client base to try to expand into different markets or different areas within the existing customer. So it's been the best way for us to grow our business. We've had another acquisition as well, which has helped. Doing some case studies has really been very helpful for us to be able to present to a customer that may be in the same market, see what we're doing for them, and to show them that, hey, we have this capability, we're already doing it, we're already a valued member of your team. Perhaps you could look for us to give us an opportunity.
Okay. And also following up on Linda's comment about, trying to do almost like a mini retreat with some of the forward thinkers within your business.
Go ahead.
We do
that. We do that in the sense of kind of a cookout type of a thing. I have a 6-month summer sales meeting in my backyard with all the salespeople and some of the key executive management team members. We have kind of a breakout session throughout the year. We sit down one-on-one with each salesperson. Some of the sales leaders within our company, we have individual meetings with the management team and them to kind of check in with what they're working on and what their thoughts are. Certainly want to get them as part of a voice on the management team, so they know that their ideas and thoughts are valued. So definitely that is a good idea, and certainly worth listening to everyone to get their input. And sometimes it aligns with what you're thinking, and other times it may be a complete 180 degree that it's at least worth listening to and checking out.
Yeah. Okay. And Linda, I know one thing you and I talked earlier, the idea of looking at where sales teams or sales professionals are spending their time. I assume that's like doing a time audit. What's the value of that? And in today's environment, how can that help?
I think, Dan, like I always remember, everybody's a creature of habit, and I tend to do things exactly the same way every single day. If you want to add more selling to your life as a sales professional, it's best to figure a way to break out of your current habits. So how can you do that? And that would be something as it literally could be as simple as, hey, instead of scheduling meetings from 11 to 12, that is when I take a look at, I mean, you could literally, if you spent 10 minutes thinking about 6 different people, you could come up with plans, and then it's easier to implement those plans. I think the most important thing is if you're working on business that you've already been awarded, that is servicing. It is not selling. It's valuable to the client, but it's not necessarily even earning you future opportunities in today's world. Whereas taking the time to shoot off that email and say, hey, I thought about this morning. There's a postal promotion going on for all printers that have direct mail in house for that goes from now till the end of the year. It's a 4% discount. No individual mailer really wants to probably fill out all the paperwork involved in that. They need help from their printer, so have you reminded your clients who mail that this is available and would you like to know more? And then to go what Pete said is, if I'm in sales, I don't want to be down in the weeds knowing how to fill out the paperwork. I want to get someone on the phone who's competent in that area with me to answer questions that the client might have. So it's my job to set the table, and then somebody else can help me cook the meal, so to speak.
Okay, I'm going to stick with you, Linda, here. Let's talk a little bit about as companies are, now in the fourth quarter of or nearing the fourth quarter of the year. Obviously, there are companies that have done very well this year. They're moving toward maybe a strong finish. What are some things that they can do for their sales teams to help them finish as strong as they want to and give them the best leg up on what 2023 will bring?
I would say for 2023, even if you're really successful, of course, I'm going to say this because I am a believer in the power of print, but I'd say take a hard look at your collateral and see if it actually reflects what it is that you do, the value you bring, and what it is that you want to sell, so that salespeople have the arrows they need in their quiver for the coming year. That would be one thing I definitely say. The other thing is take a hard look at your website. Is your website, that's the first sales rep that many people just looking around, particularly if they're a millennial buyer who lands on your website, ends up with. So does it have the depth that you need to earn you that sales conversation? And then I also think too, if you don't have a global, if a global representation of who your customers are and who your prospects are, it's very possible you really don't have enough prospects in the funnel if something did happen to a big customer. So the only way you really get insight on that is if you are someone in Pete's position where you have access to see who everybody is working on. It's so, do whoever's in charge of sales leadership, do they have access to that data? Can they look and see who's really in the funnel? And then do they have any insight on who's being worked?
Okay. And Pete, that global view that Linda talked about, being able to see who's in the funnel, who's being serviced right now. When you've been able to look into that data source, is there anything that's surprising that comes back out at you, or is it just the power of having the ability to measure these things?
Well, the measurement for me, quite frankly, is I'm more of a results kind of guy than efforts. We've got a lot of salespeople here. With any corporation, you have salespeople that are have a lot of prospects, and the prospects that they have are names on a list, right? There's names on a list that they've contacted, they've sent information to, and that's the extent of it. There's no follow-up. There's no plan for subsequent discussions. There's no plan for follow-up mailings to talk about different types of aspects of our business. And it's really kind of a hope that someday their brother-in-law is going to go to work there and they'll be able to get a job from them because it's on their list, right?
Right.
So we try to segment our prospects down to maybe 10 to 15, 20 people that they're actually actively working, talking to, that they're engaging with, that they're sending information to. They're talking about 1 week or 1 month, they send information about digital mailing. The next month, they're sending information about grand format. The next month, they're sending information about perhaps ASI items.
Yeah.
So anything that might be able to capture their attention of one aspect of our business may be the way in. It may not necessarily be printing. It may be some other service that we're offering that they may not have even thought of us on. So, this ASI offering now we have has been beneficial for a couple of accounts to at least get us in the door to have the discussions to find out where the bodies are buried, find out who the key decision makers are that may not be the person you're actively working with. So it's different ways to get in the door to find out where then you can go to from there. But you have to actively and effectively be working a smaller amount of people as opposed to having the shotgun approach that many people try to use that is completely ineffective. So.
Okay. And just in today's sales environment where things have changed quite a bit in the last couple of years, do you find that there are different resources that sales professionals need to do their jobs different than they had
yes, for
2 years
sure.
ago?
From our perspective, it used to be, as Linda mentioned, driving by and dropping off samples and your dozen donuts and hopeful to get an audience to capture their attention. Now it's really trying to figure out who the key decision makers are and then targeting them with effective materials, whether that's through an email process or a phone call or a direct mail campaign that may look to a case study that we've done with someone that's in the similar industry. So it's more difficult than it's ever been now to prospect. There's no question about it. And I'm very conscious of that when I meet with salespeople to understand that sales cycle that may have been 4 to 6, 8 months now is certainly longer. You may take you 3 or 4 months to even find out who the right person is to be talking to.
Right.
As opposed to before where Linda and I would walk in the door and meet with our customer and have a discussion and go to lunch. You're lucky to even be able to get them on the phone, let alone try to go to lunch with them. So it's different times, and you have to adapt in different ways to try to be able to get in front of somebody that at least will give you an audience. And that's the key for us right now.
Okay. And before we wrap up, Linda, I'd like to just do the lightning round here. What's one thing that sales managers or business owners should be doing today to foster efficient and effective sales in today's market?
I think look at the messages that your people are sending out. A lot of people still message very similar to what I did many, many years ago. So back then I just told people what I did. I flung that over the fence and that was enough to maybe get me a meeting. Oh yeah, I'm looking for that. Now the messaging has to be, you have this problem, we solve it for you. It's more the challenger selling model, and we can solve this for you. We've solved it for other people, to go to what Pete said about the case study concept. If you're interested in having a conversation, let's talk. So I think look at either control it yourself by creating the messaging for people, or at least take a hard look, share the information of what people are saying out there in the market to represent your company.
Okay. And Pete, if there's one thing you could tell colleagues to do, what would it be?
Don't give up. It's easy. It's easy now to answer the phone, but eventually the phones will stop ringing, and it's because that certainly there's a decline within our industry for a need for the products that we're providing. And it's now time to be creative on what other services that you can offer that will provide solutions for your customers to solve the problems they have. And that's really what I tell our salespeople now is, talk to the clients that you're working with. Who are they working with? What are their issues? what other services can we provide that we're not doing for them now? And they're buying it from somebody else. They're not buying it from you.
Right. That's a lot to think about. So thank you both, Linda and Pete, for chatting with me today, and good luck as we move toward the end of the year.
Thank you, Dan.
Thank you, Dan. Appreciate your time.
Back to you.
I want to thank my guest and colleague, Lisa, for coming on the show today. And I would love to thank my co-host, Dan, for bringing Linda and Pete onto the show. And thank you to all of you, our listeners. Stay tuned for the next episode of Impressions Xchange podcast.